का विषय पॉलिटिकल गवर्नेंस थ्रू द आइज ऑफ कॉरपोरेट। अगर देश को आगे बढ़ना है तो कॉरपोरेट का सहयोग चाहिए, लेकिन कॉरपोरेट जगत के दिग्गजों का भी अपना कुछ मानना है। उनके सामने क्या कुछ चुनौतियां हैं, आज इस पर सेशन में बातचीत होगी। हमारे बीच भारतीय छात्र संसद की गवर्निंग काउंसिल के सदस्य और हार्वर्ड बिजनेस स्कूल क्लब ऑफ इंडिया के प्रेसिडेंट डॉक्टर गणेश नटराजन जी।
Good evening to all of you, and it's a pleasure for me to be here again on behalf of the Harvard Business School Club of India. जैसे कि मैंने कल भी आप लोगों से कहा था, हमें सबसे गर्व उन लोगों पर है जो भारत में पढ़कर बाहर जाते हैं, अमेरिका, यूरोप, जहाँ भी हो, और अच्छी पढ़ाई प्राप्त करके वापस आते हैं और जो अपने जन्मभूमि, कर्मभूमि के लिए काम करते हैं, उसमें सबसे बड़ा गर्व है। और उसी तरह से हमने एक पैनल इकट्ठा किया आपके लिए। आपको कुछ एक दो शब्द में परिचित करा देते हैं। अंशुल अरोरा जी जो हैं वो हार्वर्ड के MBA हैं और यहाँ आके एक एजुकेशन कंपनी इन्होंने चालू की है, जिसके माध्यम वो प्री स्कूल और K-12 मतलब किंडरगार्टन से 12 ग्रेड तक स्कूल्स चलाते हैं। और काफ़ी उनका बॉम्बे, पुणे और बेंगलोर में काफ़ी उनका स्कूल्स को भी काफ़ी मशहूरता मिली है। सहाना शर्मा जी जो हैं वो भी MBA हैं हार्वर्ड बिजनेस स्कूल से, और उनसे पहले उन्होंने MIT से पढ़ाई की थी। और वो अभी मैकिन्जी, आप लोग सब ने सुना होगा, मैकिन्जी एंड कंपनी जो दुनिया के सबसे मशहूर कंसल्टिंग हाउस है, उसमें काम करती हैं। टेक्नोलॉजी बेसिस पे वो स्पेशलाइज करती हैं, और वो भी इधर आई हैं आप लोगों से बात करने की, वो किस तरह से काम करती हैं और क्या उनके विचार हैं। तीसरे मनप्रीत कौर आपके जैसे बहुत ही युवती हैं। उन्होंने अपने करियर शुरू की थी हमारी कंपनी में, जेंसार में, ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज के डिपार्टमेंट में, और अभी फ़िलहाल वो एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर हैं हार्वर्ड बिजनेस स्कूल क्लब ऑफ इंडिया। जैसे मैंने कहा था, HBS के कम से कम 1500 एलुमनाई हैं जो इंडिया में अभी रहते हैं और काम करते हैं, और हमारे क्लब उनको रिप्रेजेंट करती हैं। और उन किस तरह से इनिशिएटिव्स करें, किस तरह से हम पॉलिटिक्स, लीडरशिप, गवर्नेंस, सोशल सेक्टर और कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर में किस तरह के इनिशिएटिव्स चालू करें, वो सब मनप्रीत ही देखती हैं। और फाइनली विनीता बजोरिया जी हैं जो कलकत्ता से आई हैं। उनके परिवार का एक बहुत ही बड़ी कंपनी है ईस्ट में, वो है टिटागर वैगन्स, और वो वहाँ से यहाँ आई हैं आप लोगों से बात करने के लिए। तो हम ये पैनल इस तरह से रन करेंगे कि पहले तो हम स्टूडेंट्स से सुनेंगे कि उनकी क्या राय है, क्या कहना चाहते हैं, और फिर हमारे पैनलिस्ट से मैं यही दरख्वास्त करूंगा कि उनके जो विचार हैं, ना सिर्फ आप लोगों के लिए जो यंग लोग हैं इस देश के, आपको क्या करनी चाहिए आगे बढ़ते हुए, किस तरह से आपके करियर बनानी चाहिए, और किस तरह से आप डेमोक्रेसी में हाथ बढ़ा सकेंगे, वो बात करेंगे। उसके बाद हम ओपन अप कर देंगे, आपको जो भी सवाल हो आपके करियर के बारे या इस देश के बारे, इस देश के भविष्य के बारे, वो ज़रूर उनसे पूछेगा। मुझे बहुत खुशी है, आप लोग सबको मालूम होगा कि जो भारत ने अनाउंस किया था स्मार्ट सिटीज़, जो 100 से अधिक स्मार्ट सिटीज़ चूज़ करने थे, अभी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस चल रही है जिसमें पुणे को ये पूरा देश में नंबर 2 माना गया है। तालियों से स्वागत कीजिए पुणे का। और सबसे पहला अव्वल नंबर पे जो है वो है भुवनेश्वर, जो भी ईस्टर्न इंडिया में है। और मेरे ख्याल से भुवनेश्वर, पुणे जैसी छोटी शहरों में उसी में युवकों की ताकत होती है, और उसी के ये भारतीय छात्र संघ जो है, आई थिंक यही आगे बढ़ते हुए यही हमारे देश को बनाएगी। तो इसी के साथ मैं कार्यक्रम का चालू कराता हूँ, और बैक टू द कॉम्पियर।
थैंक यू वेरी मच नटराजन जी। और वाकई यंग लीडर्स कॉर्पोरेट जगत के जो कि हमारे सामने बैठे हैं, ज़रूर इंस्पायर कर रहे हैं हमारे भारतीय छात्र संसद के तमाम युवा लोगों को, और युवाओं का प्रतिनिधित्व करने के लिए ही इस मंच की संकल्पना को रचा गया था। और ये संकल्पना 6 वर्ष की हो चुकी है, और हर साल यहाँ इस महाअधिवेशन में तमाम युवा शिरकत करते हैं, शामिल होते हैं और अपने विचारों को व्यक्त करते हैं। ऐसे ही कुछ यंग लीडर्स हमारे साथ यहाँ मंच पर बैठे हैं। उनकी आवाज़ को और उनके विचारों को हम सुनेंगे आज के विषय पर। मैं सबसे पहले बुलाऊंगी सुकन्या कुलकर्णी, हमारे साथ हैं, जो कि महाराष्ट्र से आती हैं, मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग कर रही हैं। सुकन्या कुलकर्णी का जोरदार तालियों के साथ हम स्वागत करेंगे। आज के विषय पर अपने विचार रखेंगी।
Good evening to everyone present here. Well, politics is not a game, but a serious business. Chanakya Niti says, before you start some work, always ask yourself 3 questions. Why am I here? What the results might be? And will I be successful if I implement these principles? Citing the data for over 300 years, no country has ever made economic progress unless all the citizens of the nations have worked with harmony and unison, collaborating the political power as well as the corporate management rules. The first priority for every citizen and any government at the center states should be to bring back the confidence, to entrust enthusiasm, and to entrust the energy in each and every citizen of their nation. We, being the youths of today, love to be the excellent CEOs, MDs, country level heads of the MNCs and N number of organizations. Then why not, my dear friends, gather experience from our political life and gather experience from our corporate life and implement it in our political career? What if we do that? It will be a best place to work, isn't it? We say, "Chodna yaar, system hi kharab hai." But then, in the case of company, can we do that? No. We have devised n number of tools like Kaizen, wherein Kai stands for change and Zen stands for good. It is a Japanese word. If we have implemented Kaizen, 5S, Six Sigma, Zero Defect, n number of such practices in our organization management, my dear friends, why not implement it in politics and make it a better place to be in? We have to implement these planned strategies for the skywalk success by burning the midnight oil. Well, this is what differentiates the corporates of today from the politicians. We have to have the desire, the actual enthusiasm to implement the policies. We have n number of files and cases and bills pending, like the GST bill, the land acquisition bills, and many more. Had these bills passed on time, it would have been beneficial not only to the corporates of today, but to each and every citizen of our nation. The passion of implementing the planned strategies for skywalk success is what differentiates. Well, my dear friends, to succeed either in politics or in the corporate world, you have to have the determination. Lastly, I would like to conclude by repeating the lines once said by our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, which say, "माना कि अंधेरा घना है, माना कि अंधेरा घना है, पर दिया जलाना कहाँ मना है." धन्यवाद.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. दिया जलाना कब मना है, और यहाँ से एक नहीं कई दिए हम यहाँ प्रज्वलित करते हैं जो अपनी रोशनी फैलाते हैं. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. स्वागत अभिनंदन भारतीय छात्र संसद के मंच से सुकन्या कुलकर्णी का. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. और अब अगले छात्र जिनको हम आवाज़ दे रहे हैं वो हैं उमर उस्मानी, जो कि नेदरलैंड से आए हैं और MIT में एक डेलीगेशन SOM कॉलेज का, वहाँ पर उमर उस्मानी नेदरलैंड से अपनी बात रखेंगे.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank everybody for this great opportunity, and I'm really privileged and honored to be here. My name is already mentioned. I'm Omar Osmani. I'm from the Netherlands, from the Free University in Amsterdam, and I would like to share some of my experience with you regarding how I see the corporate life through the eyes of a student. And I would like to start by saying I believe that we as students can also contribute to democracy by choosing the research that can add the most value in governance and as well as in corporate. Starting first, in the Netherlands, I did my research in the corporate sector, in a corporate company. The corporate sector is a hot topic for discussion in the Netherlands because it's often debated whether the corporate sector adds positive, whether it has positive influence on democracy or not. In my view, the corporate sector can and often does have positive influence, on the democracy. Let me explain from my own experience. And I mean, my research was on a topic of value-based healthcare. As already mentioned, it's also introduced by the Harvard University professor Michael E. Porter. Value-based healthcare is focused on patient-centered care and on patient value in healthcare. To gain more knowledge on that, I interviewed several top medical specialists in the Netherlands to learn more about how they add more value in their clinical practice, but more importantly, how they can improve it. My research resulted in a business case, and my recommendations were not only implemented by the Dutch hospitals across the Netherlands, but also by the insurance companies that collaborate with the company I was doing the project for. And it even reached the Dutch Ministry of Health and Welfare. But although my contribution was merely a drop in a vast, vast, vast ocean, it did have its ripples all over on national level. India is a multicultural country with a huge, huge population. So I would like to imagine, just imagine, what the impact may be of millions of drops on the democracy. In this, I see many future leaders, current and future leaders in this hall. And I believe that if they gather their passion, compassion, and innovation, to cite the words of Sir Marshall Carr, who spoke here yesterday, I believe that the democracy as I know it, as Europe knows it, and as the world knows it, will be elevated to new heights. For me, it's amazing to witness that the Indian youth is offered this platform for their ideas and values to be shared. And I'm truly looking forward to the future of India and of you all. Thank you. Shukriya. Assalamu alaikum.
थैंक यू वेरी मच उमर उस्मानी। उमर उस्मानी नेदरलैंड से आए हैं और MIT के एक डेलीगेशन में यहाँ पर हिंदुस्तान में, और इनका स्वागत अभिनंदन माननीय सांगे जी द्वारा, BCS के सदस्य और तिब्बत के निर्वासित प्रधानमंत्री के ज़रिए। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। और अब हम आवाज़ दे रहे हैं भार्गवी महाजन को, जो कि लॉ के स्टूडेंट हैं। उनसे हम गुजारिश करेंगे वो आएँ और आज के विषय पर अपनी राय रखें।
A very good afternoon. Let us start right at the beginning. The dawn of civilization saw man as a wanderer. With time came concepts of society. With the rise of kings and kingdoms came concepts of governance. And today we see democracies around the world, of the people, by the people, for the people. In today's world, economic superiority has become the cornerstone to measure development. And the fuels in the engines of economics are nothing but the corporates in a country. Therefore, I stand before you today to discuss political governance through the eyes of corporates. Undoubtedly, the managers of our country must be congratulated on many counts. For instance, P.V. Narasimha Rao is responsible for single-handedly dismantling the license Raj era and opening the doors of liberalization. The government's sincere efforts towards women empowerment are seen through the mandate of women representation in the board of directors of companies. CSR, corporate social responsibility, is another attempt by the government to give back to the society what the corporates take from it. Most importantly, our country fosters a healthy competition. It is not monopolistic, but flexible. Also, India is known to have one of the finest intellectual property law mechanisms around the world. Having seen the successes of the government, there is also need to address the drawbacks. In this context, I quote Thomas Jefferson, who says, "In my experience, most bad governances are a result of too much governance." Yes, unfortunately, the government's involvement in certain spheres is proving to be an obstacle to the progress of companies. The extremely tedious taxation laws in the country are a major concern today. Not to mention, there is an urgent need for simplification of the land acquisition process by the corporates. Import-export laws must be revisited. Consolidation of labor laws is the need of the hour. Ask any businessman what he wants today. The unified answer would be ease to do business. Simplification is the absolute necessity. There has to be predictability in the system. Proactive mechanism is not the way to go. It should be proactive rather than reactive. Today, India ranks as one of the 3rd GDP countries in the world with the 7th purchase power parity ranking. But sadly, when it comes to ease of doing business, We rank 130th in the world. So pass the pending bills, consolidate the compliances, and promote web-based governance is the way to go. To conclude, I quote Barack Obama, who says, "If you're walking down the right path and willing to keep walking, progress is inevitable." Therefore, I believe with a certain changes in our governance, progress in India is absolutely inevitable. Thank you.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, बिल्कुल ठीक कहा भार्गवी महाजन ने। किस प्रकार से अपने उन चीज़ों को दुरुस्त करना है जहाँ पर हमारी लीकेजेस हैं, जहाँ पर हमारे वीक पॉइंट्स हैं। और स्वागत अभिनंदन यहाँ पर भार्गवी महाजन का भारतीय छात्र संसद के मंच पर। इन्हीं होनहार युवाओं को सुनने के लिए हम लोग यहाँ इकट्ठा होते हैं। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। और अब हम आवाज़ दे रहे हैं हरसिमरन कौर को, जो कि पंजाब से आती हैं, फार्मेसी की स्टूडेंट हैं। हरसिमरन कौर, आएँ और अपनी बात रखिए।
With proper governance, life will improve for all. Good afternoon, I'm Harsimran Kaur and I'm here to share my views in this session on political governance through the eyes of corporate. Be a commoner or a corporate man, this idea has its own share of expectations and desires. Simply putting, political governance in the eyes of corporate is nothing but a tool to reach out to the masses which dictate its impregnability in the market. Sounds too much like crony capitalism. The road doesn't end here, albeit this is where it triggers the critical point. Political governance through the eyes of corporate defines the relation between these distinct identities. One being the corporates as the manufacturers, and other the masses at the far end of the chain acting as consumers. As I have already told, it is a chain. So how do we make for these two ends to meet? Political governance thus acts as a middleman in this nexus and provides for a direct link between these two. Corporates are usually mocked as leeches, sucking the blood and sweat of the poor and masses. But has anyone pondered upon the reasons of it? Life turns a full circle and points out to the gray areas such as despotism, favoritism, disproportional addition, corruption, license raj, and whatnot. The game changer, or I would call the need of the hour, is the economic reform that puts forth the engagement of the corporates in the nation's building policies. It's not that we do not have any reforms as such. The initiatives such as Startup India, Make in India, Digital India, the smart cities, the CSR, the stand taken by Prime Minister in the global stage, and not to forget the ultimate fact that India's economic growth rate has become the global growth challenger. But apart from the mirror picture, we need to understand that in this ever-growing, ever-progressing, and ever-changing world, there is a need to integrate, collaborate, and partner with the market changers, the corporates. And do not deny the successful democratic transition as happened in Kenya in 2003, laid on a foundation based upon the cemented coordination between the corporate and the political arenas. Why political governance through the eyes of corporate? Why can't the vice versa happen? Why can't the political governance and the corporate governance play in for a greater governance where, yes, actually, India can progress as a whole? Why can't this lead to a robust mechanism where the hurdles and evils become a part of Rip Van Winkle's folklores? In an era where the corporates are no longer parasites and are completing the aspirations of the poor and masses, the vision of reuniting the estranged Bharat with India seems practical. 7 decades ago, we declared our tryst with destiny. Now, with the economic and the social progress, we make believe in the motto of the Indian Air Force, Nabha Sparsham Deepatam, touch the sky with glory. Thank you.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। जब तक हरसिमरन कौर जैसे युवा भारत में रहेंगे, निश्चित तौर पर कोई रोक नहीं सकता हमारी उन्नति को, प्रगति को। बहुत बहुत बधाई। और यहाँ भारतीय छात्र संसद के मंच पर इस युवा छात्र नेता का सम्मान हरसिमरन कौर, जोरदार तालियों के साथ अभिनंदन इस युवा नेत्री का। और अब आज के विषय पर हम लौटेंगे। कॉर्पोरेट नज़रिए से किस प्रकार से पॉलिटिकल गवर्नेंस पर चर्चा करेंगे। हमारे साथ यहाँ पर एक पूरा का पूरा पैनल मौजूद है, आइए जिन्हें अभी आप सुनेंगे एक परिचर्चा में। और इस पैनल डिस्कशन का संचालन करेंगे प्रोफेसर गौतम बापट।
Thank you, madam. Today we have a galaxy of experts to have a fantastic panel discussion. Let me begin. I'm going to ask one common question to each one of you. I'm sure they have a cordless mic there. Okay. A common question that needs to be addressed by all of them is, what do they think should be the role of government in the implementation of Make in India and Startup India? This is a very common question referred everywhere, so we would like to have answer from each one of you. What exactly are your views?
Thank you. I mean, if I may suggest, what we'll do is we'll ask each of our panelists to maybe give us a few thoughts on what they think both about the question you asked, as well as, of course, what is their own view on the role of, learnings from corporate for politics, for governance, and of course the role of youth. So maybe we can just start with you, Vinita.
Good afternoon, everyone. The corporate sector in India has come of age and is very much looking forward to playing a big constructive role in nation building. We have today GDP growth rates which are among the highest in the world, but we should not get complacent seeing the tremendous manpower availability, technological capability, and overall potential. We in corporate India believe that a double-digit growth rate could easily be achieved. Now, why is the corporate sector not doing it? We need an enabling environment which can only happen when the government and the politicians analyze their respective roles and concentrate their governance on core sectors and move out of the non-core sectors. What are the core sectors? By core sectors, we have the judicial system. India has one of the best judiciaries in the world, but their benefits are at best eclipsed by the outdated procedures which lead to cases dragging on for decades. The government should adopt best practices in judicial system like other successful countries. Defense. We have one of the best armies in the world, but depend on overseas armament suppliers to buy our defense armaments. We had a policy whereby the Indian private sector could not participate in defense production, but now, thankfully, the government has opened up defense production to Indian private sector, allowing it not only to become self-sufficient, but exporters in due course. Education and skill development. A lot of focus is needed in this sector, considering that the Indian education system is completely out of sync with the current requirements, causing poor employability. Skill development is vigorously being talked about, but very little is being done in this sector. There are very successful models of skill development for the government to study and emulate, like the German, Swiss, Japanese, and the South Korean models. Agriculture. Almost 60 to 70% of our population depend on agriculture. And its improvement can bring about prosperity to this sector, resulting in accelerated economic growth. Transportation and communication. We are glad that the government has realized the importance of these two sectors and has taken up its development. More needs to be done on the four means of transport, which is road, rail, air, and inland waterways, railways. Now, why do we need a separate railway ministry? India is perhaps one of the only 3 countries in the world which has a separate railway ministry, the other 2 being Pakistan and North Korea. Even countries like the communist Russia and China have done away with railway ministries. Indian Airlines. Why should Indian Airlines not be privatized? Inland water transportation. India has a coastline of 7,000 kilometers and a multitude of rivers, but almost nothing is being done to develop the infrastructure. Roads. Highway construction needs to be taken up vigorously. Apart from these, there are other sectors like international law and order, internal law and order, and public health, which fall in the core sector. Now, these are the areas of the core sector where we need the politicians to frame the general macro policy and involve the corporate sector for faster growth. Having talked about what the government should do in the core sector, we must also see what the government must do in the non-core sector. One of the major impediments in corporates taking up ambitious industrial and infrastructural projects is the high interest rates caused by the high fiscal deficit. This fiscal deficit is caused by the huge involvement and expenditure of the government in non-core sector. If we look at the Government of India budget estimates, we see that the fiscal deficit is caused by the huge debt service obligation. Studies have been carried out recently that places the market valuation of the non-core sector of Government of India that can be corporatized and brought outside the government sector at over rupees 1 lakh crore, whereas the total debt of the Government of India stands at 60 lakh crores. If the government thinks big, there is a possibility to eliminate the entire fiscal deficit, thereby starting a virtuous cycle of corporates, both Indian and foreign, taking up big infrastructural and industrial projects. In conclusion, the Indian corporate sector is very enthused and proactive in bringing about prosperity to the Indian economy and its masses. We would encourage a very healthy debate between the government and the corporate sector to delineate areas where they can play their respective roles towards the common objective, which is national good and vikas. As Chanakya had said, Arthasya Mula Rajyam, which means that in order to govern the state well and to keep its people happy and content, wealth of the state is essential. Welfare of the state is not possible without money. Prosperity or wealth depends on good governance of the state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Delighted and honored to be here. Again, as we look ahead and we look at the world, India is now on the center stage. India is considered the bright spot in the world. Everyone in the World Economic Forum is talking about the GDP of India and what the potential is for growth. I think a little bit of what Vanita said, none of it will be possible without cooperation. Between cooperation of the government as well as the corporation. And let me just outline a few areas where I think the corporation is going to be especially essential. First, if we talk about labor participation, in particular for women. If I look at India, India's women are amongst the most educated in Asia. Yet, when you look at labor participation, it actually has the lowest labor participation across all of the Asian countries. This has to be looked at both through cooperation of what corporates can do, but also what the government can do to further encourage women to stay in the economy. Many different economists have looked at what the GDP improvement can be if women just stay in the economy. We have a fantastic base of talented women who are not sufficiently in the economy. So that is one area where there could certainly be a cooperation. The second is around technology investment. And just let me lay out 3 areas. The first is on healthcare. If you look at India today, the number of beds required relative to the need is far lacking. And the outcomes are not what we would want them to be. So again, where can industry and the government come together to make sure the citizens have a sufficient healthcare? The second is around urbanization. We all know that over the next 10 years, India is going to become more urban and there will be many more cities. And so investment in technology around smart cities will be essential to make sure we have productive cities that allows for good quality of living. This will include investments in transportation like metros, in roads, in the right way of looking at urban planning. But collaborating on urban planning, again, will be one critical area. The third is around skills development. Again, the future of India depends on having an educated and having a high base of skills. Technology will enable us to educate many more people. But again, this will require cooperation between the government as well as industry. The third area is around water, a very fundamental need. But again, many reports suggest that the water supply will be behind what India needs. This is partly due to storage, partly due to investments in water technology. But this is an area, again, where there must be collaboration. And the last is around energy. Over the next 10 to 20 years, India will have to shift from a coal-based energy mix to a mix of other cleaner technologies. And these are all areas which can substantially improve the GDP, but will not happen without both the investment of corporates, but also the collaboration of government policies to make it so. Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
honored to be here.
Thank you very much. Yes, please. No, the mic will come to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Or to the few people that I can see sleeping, good morning. Can I get a good afternoon back? Wonderful. I'm very impressed with this organization, and for two reasons. One is typically when you invite guests, you will typically have the guest speak first and then the student. But MIT has chosen to have the student speak first and then the guests. And that's very symbolic of why I think we all are here, to support you in you achieving your potential. The second reason I'm impressed is I could never sit for so many hours like each of you in those chairs quietly. And that's why I asked you to say good afternoon. I'm going to start with a very simple question, which I think is often ignored or avoided in education, which is, why are we here? Why are each of you sitting for so long in those chairs? Why are we here from different parts of India? We're here because we have a common goal. Whether we're here as students, whether we're here as corporates, whether we're here as government, we are here to help see the great potential we see in each of ourselves, in our companies, and in our country. And as Sahana said, the world's eyes are on us. You may know of the World Economic Forum, which Sahana spoke about. But India is really looked to today as a lighthouse of opportunity. And why? Because we have so many of you. What I mean by you is the youth. The eyes of the world are on India because we have 500 million young people under the age of 25. Now, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? As the question for us today, will India reach its potential? Well, India will reach its potential if each of these individuals reach their potential. And in order to do that, the heart and soul of achieving that, to me, and why I do what I do in education, is education. So what is the state of education today, given that it's such a critical pillar for us to achieve our potential? And what role does government play to support that? If you look over the last 15, 20 years, India has made great progress in education. If you look at enrollment rates in school, we have some of the highest enrollment rates in school. However, if you look at quality, we have some of the poorest levels of quality and quality outcomes across a wide variety of surveys in education. So there's a great need to push quality in every area of education: early education, primary, secondary, vocational, and higher education. The question is, what is good quality? If you imagine when you go out to the working world and when you're in the prime of your careers 10 years from now, or for people who are starting in preschool 20 or 30 years from now, what will the world look like? In the last 10 years alone, we've seen more than 200 million Indian people join the knowledge economy and join being part of the internet world. Knowledge is everywhere. What we as the youth, as students, as corporates need to know how to work with that knowledge, how do we think critically? How do we collaborate effectively? How do we communicate effectively? And how do we think creatively to create solutions for problems that we don't even know that exist today? So, going back to our question, the Prime Minister in Startup India recently said, what he sees as the role of government, he said, you know, we've been trying all kinds of laws for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and see where it's got us. What he sees as the next 10 years is for government to step out where it's not necessary so that young people like you can really reach your potential without being blockaded in different ways. That is not to say there's not a role for government. Private sector will naturally address certain issues, whether that's in education or otherwise. And there's a real need for government to step in and address areas that may not be as well addressed, or work in public-private partnership in areas like Sahana talked about, water or technology or health or education. So with that, I wish each of you will really work to develop not just skills in memorization, but to really think critically, collaborate effectively, communicate together, and be creative citizens that help us reach the great potential we have as a country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, please.
Hello, what's up? See, I'm the least experienced and least educated among all these guys who are sitting on the dais. But one thing which I should say, that whatever I'm going to speak would be on your behalf. So I'm not going to speak on the topic which they have given me. Instead, I will speak what, from your point of view. So tell me one thing. Why do anyone tell us that these X, Y, Z should be the rules or regulations or should be the part of our politics system? Why do you think anyone else should tell us? Just to give you a perspective, we have about 3,300 colleges where every year tens and thousands of students pass out. And just imagine, why can't, in all those tens and thousands of students, why can one person say that these are some issues that we need to take it up? And the government should look into these aspects. Don't you think it's a fair game? If we don't know where we are going, then any road will take us. So आज मैं जो भी बोलूँगी, मैं आपके तरफ व्यू पॉइंट से बोलूँगी, ना कि what they are telling us. So I feel politics is very, very important, and I'm so glad that at this point of time, we have a stage or we have a place where all these things are being discussed. There are colleges who are teaching us what politics is, kya acha hai, kya bura hai. And in all this, the technology is making a huge impact. Any decision which the government is taking, whether good, right, controversial, it's been discussed among us through Twitter, through social media, and it's all been done by youth, by people like you and me. We look into Facebook, we look into Twitter, what's happening, and who has done what, who has said what. Why do you think it is so gaining so much of popularity among all of us? Because somewhere we want to change the system. And why do we have to look at somebody else? Why can't we be the change agent? So, with one line I would like to conclude. Definitely politics make a lot of difference in our government system, and it's we who have to change the entire system. And we have to stand up and say that, hey, come on, these are the 5 things which can be done better. For example, any traffic rules in Pune or anywhere else. Can't we come up with some solution as a student committee and project it to our government? Hey, these are the best things which are being followed by X, Y, Z countries. Why can't we do it? And why do we have to take help of the government services? We are, strong enough to make that change. And I'm sure next year when you do this program, we'll all be part of that change. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now let's quickly turn, we have very less time left though, but let's quickly turn to the student leaders' questions. The very first question is coming from podium number 2. Mr. Anuray Tiwari. Do we have him? Mr. Anuray? Yes. Please go ahead with your question. Please let us know where are you from.
रायपुर सर.
Okay. Please go ahead.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन नटराजन सर से है. सर ये जो क्वेश्चन है वो कार्ल मार्क्स की थ्योरी जो आई थी क्लास स्ट्रगल उसके ऊपर है कि अमीर अमीर होते जाएंगे और गरीब गरीब होते जाएंगे. क्या कारपोरेट सेक्टर और गवर्नमेंट वेट कर रही है कि गरीब उठें और इस चीज़ का निदान करें?
नहीं, आपने जो कहा है वो बिल्कुल सही कहा है. और मेरे ख्याल से एक प्रॉब्लम ये भी है हमारे देश में कि हमारी जो एस्पिरेशन है वो शायद बहुत ज़्यादा हो चुकी है. अच्छी बात है कि प्रधानमंत्री जी ने और काफ़ी लोगों ने ये कहा है कि आप बढ़कर सोचिए या ना नौकरी मत ढूंढिए, नौकरी दीजिए लोगों को. फिर ये भी हमें याद रखनी चाहिए कि जो हमारी एस्पिरेशंस है एक सीमा तक होनी चाहिए. मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि हम सब मिलके एक बार शाहरुख खान बन जाए, ऐसे तो हो नहीं सकता है. तो आप लोग सबको ये सोचना चाहिए कि हमारी मैं अभी जो कर रहा हूँ, मेरे परिवार जहाँ से उनका जो अभी स्टेटस है, किस तरह से हम एक नहीं मगर 2 स्थान ऊपर कर सकें. मतलब कि जो एस्पिरेशन है वो ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि हम सबसे रिच हो जाएं, हम धीरूभाई अंबानी हो जाएं या मुकेश अंबानी हो जाएं, मगर किस तरह से हमारी जो परिवार है, हमारे जो दोस्त हैं, उनको खुशी दे सकें. और अगर ऐसे एस्पिरेशन हम रखें ना तो मेरे ख्याल से सबको खुशी होगी. कल किसी ने कहा था ग्रॉस हैप्पीनेस के बारे, अलैक पदम जी ने, और ये खुशी तभी मिलेगी जब हम ये सोच के चले कि कुछ बनना है, ये नहीं कि सबसे ऊंची स्थान पे जाना है. और अगर इस देश में सब लोग यही खुशी चाहते हैं कि थोड़े बहुत उन्नति करें, थोड़े बहुत ऊंचे उठें, तो हम सब खुश भी रहेंगे और देश भी आगे प्रगति करेगा. अगर 12-13% की ग्रोथ जैसे विनीता जी ने कहा था वो हम प्राप्त करना चाहते हैं, वो तभी हो सकता है जो हम सब मिल के हाथ बटा के काम करें. और आप भी, हम भी, देश के सारे 125 करोड़ लोग यही चाहना होगा कि सिर्फ मेरे लिए नहीं पर मेरे पूरे देश के लिए उन्नति हो, प्रोग्रेस हो. तो ये करेंगे तो मेरे ख्याल से हम सब खुश रहेंगे.
Thank you very much, sir. The next question is coming from podium number 3, Priyansh Chaudhary. Priyansh Chaudhary on podium number 3. Where are you from?
I am here.
Priyansh, where are you from?
I am from Indore, ITDAVV.
Okay, please go ahead.
My question is to Shri Anshul Arora ji. My question is, many of time it happens that it is heard that various political leaders are in the pocket of corporate personalities since they are funding political parties and funding them to fight the elections. Is it true?
Look, I think this is a very important question, and it comes to the bigger question of corporate governance. And I think there's a certain mindset, even if I look in my own sector, education, where you can take certain shortcuts and build a very profitable company in the short term. But the question is what will happen in the long term. So if you look in this technology sector like Dr. Natarajan is from, there were several companies in the technology sector early on. But Infosys came out in the long term as a real winner, and Wipro came out as a real winner. Why? Because they were built on sound values and corporate governance without the kind of things that you are alluding to right now. And I think it requires us to be based on some real fundamental values in the way that we conduct ourselves individually and as organizations to make sure we create the kind of India that we like, which doesn't have the kind of problems that you're alluding to.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll have the last question from podium number 2 by Mr. Akshat Gandhi. Akshat Gandhi. Podium number 2. Yes, where are you from?
Good evening, sir. I am from Gujarat, Godhra.
Please go ahead.
My question is to Ms. Sahana Sharma, ma'am. I have a question that, ma'am, in India, जब भी कॉर्पोरेट फील्ड्स को कुछ अपना काम निकलवाना होता है, they help the political parties in the election campaign and get the work done illegally. How can we cure this problem from corporate side as well as political party side?
So again, obviously that's a very important question. I would say that it's important for companies to think about their core values. In every company, there must be a sense of real mission and what the core values are that guide their actions. I think the way Anshul said it, I think many companies actually do have that set of values, and it's important to see those companies actually succeed. And for other companies to learn that we must not only look for profitability, but we must run our business by a set of fundamental values around integrity, around trust, care of our customers, and care of our people. So that, I would say, is the guiding principle by which every company actually has to run, by a set of real fundamental principles that are not changed.
Vinita, any comment on that? From the east of India, do you feel the need to influence politicians?
No, not really. I completely agree with Anshul and Sahana that ultimately it is the companies which do things the right way and not stepping out of the line who actually succeed in the long run. In order for success to be sustainable, you have to do the right things and clearly within the ethical norms.
Thank you very much. With this, we come to an end of this question and answer session. Thank you. Thanks a lot, everyone. A big round of applause for all the dignitaries on the dais. Thank you very much. Now, before we go ahead with the resolution for this session, let me bring your attention back to our BCS Youth Connect activity. Okay, let me understand everyone. Please raise your hands, those who are going to participate, those who have registered already for BCS Youth Connect activity. Please raise your hands. Okay, fantastic. I hope you all have understood that on your registration slip, you have the location map where you have to reach after this session. Please say yes or no. Yes? You all understand that where you have to reach because this campus is new to you. On the registration slip, you have a location marked where you all have to move after this session immediately in order to have a focused discussion. I'm sure if there are any doubts, you can find our volunteers and ask them. Yes. So this is the slip you have. Exactly behind that, you will have the location map where you have to reach. This is really important. It might get complicated because this campus is new to you. Please do seek help if you find any trouble. Okay, let's go ahead with the resolution now. I request my technical team to display the resolution. Well, one more important announcement for all of you. We have created a dedicated spatial Android app for this BCS Youth Connect activity. And in order to facilitate downloading of this app from Android Play Store, we have made this particular venue Wi-Fi enabled just now. This area is now Wi-Fi enabled. You will have open access Wi-Fi network right now with either two names, BCS or UA Connect. These two networks, because on one side there is BCS, on one side there is UA Connect. You can immediately connect to this open Wi-Fi network and go to Google Play Store, give a search as BCS space Youth Connect. You will see our logo and an app. Quickly download that app before you continue with the session, before you go to your respective places for the focused discussion. Please do not forget to download and install this app in your respective Android phones. I repeat, connect to a Wi-Fi network, go to Google Play Store, look for BCS Youth Connect app. You will find our logo. It's easily identifiable. Download it, install it, and be ready, and then move out from this venue and go to your respective places. Okay, well, keep your Android Play Store on hold for some time because it's time for resolution now. The resolution is already visible. Political governance through the eyes of corporate. हम सभी एकत्रित छात्र नेता छठी भारतीय छात्र संसद के माध्यम से भारत सरकार से अनुरोध करते हैं कि वे ऐसी व्यापार नीतियों का प्रावधान करें जो नौजवानों को कम उम्र में व्यापार कौशल्य प्राप्त करने में एवं स्टार्टअप इंडिया जैसी नवीनतम पहल का प्रभावशाली ढंग से अमल करने में सहायक हो. We, the student leaders assembled here in 6th Bharatiya Chhatra Sansad, hereby appeal to the government to facilitate an environment that will focus on skill development from an early age, while effectively implementing and monitoring innovative initiatives like Startup India. Friends, your time begins now. In order to support this particular resolution, please type BCS 5 space Y. If you want to oppose, please type BCS 5N and send this SMS to 92121488888. Please participate wholeheartedly. Start sending your SMSs. Your clock has already started ticking and it's only 1.5 minutes left. Please start voting, start messaging. You can continue with your downloading process later on because this is a time-bound activity. Quickly do the voting. Please carry on. Quickly send an SMS. There is really short time left, less than a minute now. Last 45 seconds, friends. Please hurry up. Send your messages quickly to 92121488888. We'll see the results of this resolution immediately after the time is over. Just last 30 seconds. Please hurry up. I'm sure by the time you all have voted, last 15 seconds, my friends. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. And your time is over. Congratulations, this resolution passes with 94.87%. A big round of applause, please. Thank you very much.
तो ये रेजोल्यूशन यहाँ से भारतीय छात्र संसद के मंच से आज का निकला और आज का सत्र हम यहीं पर समाप्त करेंगे क्योंकि अब आपको